Hi, everybody. This is Maya Zahira with Psychic Protection Sanctuary, and we are now live for our monthly YouTube live class on my YouTube channel. So welcome. If you are watching the replay, we'll probably start the actual content in about 5 minutes. We're going to wait for more people to join. So let's do a little tech check. Today's topic is the 10 pillars of psychic protection. So today you're going to learn the framework that I use to address psychic protection issues. And this is for you if you are somebody who has been having spiritual issues and you've been throwing spaghetti at the wall, trying different things, and maybe it doesn't work, maybe it sort of works, but then the issue comes back, or maybe the issue comes back in a different way. And over the past decade of focusing my spiritual practice entirely on psychic protection, and then with 30 years of spiritual teaching work, with all of that experience, I have seen the patterns and figured out what works, what doesn't work, and what framework needs to be in place so you can get results. So welcome everybody. Let's take a few minutes to just do shout outs. Let me know where you're joining from. And this is definitely a class where you're going to want to take notes. Pen and paper, go grab a pen and paper, grab something to drink, get yourself comfortable, because I'm going to go through a lot in a pretty short period of time. So while we're waiting for more people to join our live, let's go over announcements. All right. Oh, and I want to ask for your grace, because I was just looking over my notes. I have 3 pages of tons of notes, and I know for a fact I'm going to be looking down a lot at my notes because there's so much to cover and I want to get through all of it. So let's shout out to the Sin City Mama. Hello. Grace from New York, pen and paper ready. Awesome. So let's go over a few announcements, and I'm watching the clock. I'm planning on starting our content at right about 5 minutes into our video. So for those of you who are watching the replay, Sin City Mama is joining us from Cancun. Veronica in Cancun. That's awesome. Okay, quick announcements. This is so exciting, brand new program being released this month. So this YouTube live is taking place at the beginning of February 2026. So if you're watching the replay later in the future, then the program has already launched. So this brand new program is launching in the middle of this month, February 19th. That's a Thursday. And the program is called the Psychic Protection Solution. The framework that I'm going to teach you in today's free class is actually the same framework that we go very in depth into in the self-study program. So if you've been following my YouTube channel for a while, maybe you've read some of my books, or you've been eyeing my academy, but for whatever reason you feel like it's not the right fit, or it's not the right price point for you, because let's be real, that is a factor. This is a great option for you if the academy isn't right for you. So it is self-directed. It's a self-study program. So it's not a group mentoring program with me like the academy. But the people who join at the very beginning will get some mentoring from me, because I'm going to do a monthly Q&A for the first 6 months for the people who join right at the beginning. So if you want to be able to ask questions, then join at the beginning, February 19th, and for a couple of weeks enrollment will be open. So just wanted to let you know. And then I also have a website if you want to access some of the other content, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. And that is where you can access the free quiz. It's a very comprehensive quiz to find out if you are experiencing psychic attack. So it's a really, really valuable free resource there. Also, books are on Amazon, so you can search for Maya Zahira. Okay, we are at a little bit after 5 minutes, so it is time to start. Welcome, everybody. As I mentioned before, you'll want to have a pen and paper. This class is a little bit different than some of my others, so let me explain before we start. This is the 10 pillars of psychic protection. Now it would take, actually, I think there's 100 lessons in the psychic protection solution. So it would take 100 lessons to teach you all of the nuts and bolts of these 10 pillars. And that is not what we are here to do today. I want you to understand that there is value in knowing what these pillars are, so you can either research these on your own and go your own way with this, or you can go ahead and join the new self-study course. It doesn't matter either way. I think these pillars are super important. Alrighty? I'm just reading the comments. You guys are hilarious. Some of these comments are funny. Okay, so, and the weird comments I always ignore, so don't bother. All right, so let's get into the outline. This is a framework, so I want you to think of like a structure, right, that holds a whole framework, or you can imagine a map that's like a bubble that has a bunch of bubbles on it. And we're going to write each of these pillars in each of these bubbles. Okay. So grab your pen and paper, and we're going to go over all 10 of these pillars. As we go, I want you to ask questions. Okay. So the chat here isn't for like weird side conversations. Otherwise we'll remove you. It is for asking questions and shouting out, letting us know where you're joining us from. Okay. So number 1, framework for psychic protection. If you really want to clear your psychic protection issues, the very first thing that you need in your tool belt is an understand. So this is going to sound so like obvious. You need, excuse me, you need an understanding of spiritual warfare. You need to understand what are the symptoms of psychic attack? What are the different types of entities? What are the different types of negative energies? What is psychological warfare? What is primary psychic attack versus secondary psychic attack? You need to know all of those basics about spiritual warfare and psychic protection. Otherwise, you're never going to be able to understand what's going on in your own situation. Okay. Now, I was just doing my dishes and finishing dinner right before I turned this on. And I was thinking about how there are healers out there that their approach is that they clear entities for people. And I totally respect that approach, but guess what happens? You want to guess? You want to guess what happens when you have to go to the healer to have them clear your entities for you? Anybody want to answer that? So what happens if every time you have an entity attachment or a psychic attack or entity interference or any negative energy that you have to go to the healer, what happens? What do you think happen? What do you think is going to happen? Okay, Grace Walker says, they get attached to the healer. Well, they could. If the healer doesn't have proper protocols for protection, yeah, that could happen. Really, what I want to know is what happens to the client? Yeah. But yeah, you have a very good point there. Grace also says, or they just come back after the healer's energy is gone. Yes, that happens a lot. A lot of times they will just come right back to the person because why? Because the person hasn't learned how to manage their own energy. So they leave the healer's office, and a day or a week later, then the issue has returned, right? Or a different issue, similar issue returns. And the Sin City Mama says, you have to keep going back over and over again for their help, again and again. Yeah, so a dependency results. This is where, somebody has to spend, $20,000 with a healer because they keep getting thousands of entities attached to them. And believe me, that does happen. Yeah, so, I don't want to shoot down the approach of other healers. There's a place for that. Like sometimes that is needed. Sometimes people need that extra help. That's not my approach. My approach is to empower you. You don't need to be dependent. And I want to emphasize that word. You don't need to be dependent on a healer to keep fixing you. You know what that's called? That's called codependency. And there are a lot of healers who usually it's not intentional, but they end up encouraging codependent relationships with their clients because they themselves are codependent. And again, not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but there are an awful lot of healers out there that have a huge heart, but they also have unhealed codependency. And so there's this actually there end up being energy cords attached from the practitioner to the client where there's this mutual need and they need each other and it's not healthy. So my vision for you is that you don't have to have a codependent relationship with a healer. You don't have to go to somebody every time you have an entity. Okay, yes, it's good to have a mentor or someone to help you, someone who's further along, that's good, but you know what I'm saying, not to have a dependent relationship. So this is why the first pillar is that you must have an understanding of the ins and outs of psychic protection, spiritual warfare, entities, what psychic attack the symptoms are, what the symptoms of entity attachment are, and so on. Yes. Simply Moonchild says, will captions ever be available? Captions are available after. So I will check in tomorrow and make sure that those are up. So thank you for asking. I think that's really important, very important, because we want this to be accessible for lots of different people. Okay, so that is pillar number 1, an understanding of psychic protection. Sounds basic, like, well, yeah, duh, of course you need understanding of that, but you wouldn't believe how many people don't even really want to take the time to learn about psychic protection. They just want someone to fix them. And listen, I totally get that, especially if you've been struggling for a long time and you're tired. But again, then we would have that dependency issue, that what happens if you have another issue or the issue comes back, because a lot of times the issues do come back after one clearing, and then you have to do multiple clearings, and it's like $20,000 worth of clearings, and it's just not healthy. Yeah. Okay, so everybody have their pen and paper. Who's taking notes? The 10 pillars of psychic protection. This is what you need to know so that you're not just throwing spaghetti against the wall, trying random things or trying a couple of things and being like, well, that didn't work. I think I'm under psychic attack, but I don't know what to do. And then it goes on way longer than it needs to, and you're suffering for way longer than you need to. And I don't want you to suffer for longer than you need to. So let's get these pillars under our belt. Number 2, so now that you, oh, I apologize. Let's go back a little bit. For each of these, I have a tip and an exercise. Now, again, this class is a little different because I'm going to be asking you to go outside of this class and do homework. And of course, that's only going to be valuable to those of you who want to do the work. And for anybody who doesn't really want to do any work, you're probably not going to want to work with me long term. That's okay. You can still enjoy all the free videos on the channel, but I'm all about, like, I'm going to give you tons of resources, but you also need to go and do some work. That is the most empowered approach for you. Okay. So I'm going to give you a tip and an exercise for each of these, and you're going to have to go off and do some homework. So write down this tip for understanding psychic attack. Easy homework. You need to watch as many videos as possible on this YouTube channel. Now look, I'm not saying that so you can make me $1 million on this YouTube channel. I make like $10 a month. Okay. Like, unless you have millions of views, you're not making money out of this. So I am sharing that tip with you as a resource. Okay. There's, I think, 300 free videos on this YouTube channel. Use those. Use that material to support you. All of the videos on this channel are all about helping you understand psychic protection and spiritual warfare. That's what all of those videos are, and they're free. Okay? They're free. An exercise, a short exercise. This is what you can do if you haven't done it already for understanding psychic protection. Go to my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com, and there's a free quiz. Again, this is free. It doesn't cost you anything. If you put your email in to the box, then you will be sent a free quiz that helps you understand all of the symptoms of psychic attack and spiritual warfare. And it's if you don't have time to watch all 300 videos on my channel, if you obtain that quiz, you're going to have a list that's very comprehensive. Okay. Okay. Now to number 2. Number 2 pillar of psychic protection to help you understand what's going on is understanding the origin of your psychic protection issues. So you need to figure out what is going on, not just psychic protection, spiritual warfare in general, but what's your issue? Like, okay, there's weird stuff going on in your house, but you got to figure out what your issue is. So is it human directed psychic attack, like someone is sending you negative energy? Is it negative entities? Is it black magic? Is it something ancestral? Is it something from your past life? And the list goes on and on and on. Okay. And the Sin City Mama says, there's so much to learn on this channel. Ocean Soul says, hello, Maya and all. A little late here and stopping by for a little bit of time to watch the class. And this is Jamie L. from Rhode Island. Yay. Oh, well, we were just missing you in the group earlier today. So good to hear from you. Perfect timing, actually. Okay, so number 2, understanding the origin of your psychic protection issues. So my tip that I'm going to give you is optional, of course, and it is that there is a very good handout in the new program coming out on February 19th. There's a handout in week 1. Right away when you join, you get access to this handout in the psychic protection solution. And it helps you understand, it takes you through a whole process of understanding and unraveling what might be happening with your psychic protection issues. And even if you can't join, I'm going to give you an exercise right now. Okay? So write this down in your notes. Remember, again, I warned you, I'm giving you homework. Journal if you happen to be having a psychic protection issue now. Okay. And if not, think about something. If you've had anything in the past, you can do it with anything that's happened in the past. Journal and brainstorm. When did this issue begin? Explore that. When did this issue begin? And a lot of times it began earlier than you realize. Like maybe you think it started 2 weeks ago, but then if you look back, you're like, oh, actually 2 years ago, there was some weird thing that happened, or in your childhood, etc. Okay. So that's number 2 of the 10 pillars of psychic protection. If you've been throwing spaghetti against the wall and trying different things and you have lackluster results and you're still fighting against whatever you're fighting against, negative entities, black magic, ancestral curses, bad luck, all these things, then what you're doing isn't working. It's not step-by-step enough. You really need a step-by-step comprehensive approach. And believe me, I know, because I've helped a lot of people. Okay. So like I said at the beginning, I'm sharing this information freely and I want you to do whatever you want with it. You can take it and work on your own and do your own research and follow your own journey using this framework as an inspiration for you to give you ideas. Or if you want a more directed approach, then you could consider joining the Psychic Protection Solution that's coming in a couple of weeks. Okay, so either way, totally fine. Number 3, pillar of psychic protection. You need to understand. So now that you understand the origin of your psychic protection issues, where is it coming from? Where is it, who is it coming from? Now you need to explore, are there any aspects in your life that are making you vulnerable to spiritual warfare? And this is actually what we explored last month in our free class. What is making you vulnerable to spiritual warfare? So just to recap, some things that can make you vulnerable to spiritual warfare issues are being an empath, having a damaged aura, unsafe spiritual practices, past paranormal activity, unresolved trauma, and there's more. So if you haven't seen that, go back and watch last month's live. We go really in depth into all the things that can make you vulnerable to spiritual warfare. Here's the thing. If you're doing all sorts of rituals or spells or methods and it's not sticking, it's not working, and you're still having spiritual warfare issues, it could be because there are some things about you or some habits, some things in your life that are making you vulnerable to spiritual warfare. And addiction activities is one of them. And and also relationships. If you're in a relationship with someone who has dark entity attachments, for example, or is engaged in dark spiritual practices, you could be doing all the clearing rituals in the world. And if you're still engaging with those things, then I'm just going to be honest, you're not going to have effective results. You're just not going to. So you're going to have to address or fix those vulnerabilities. Okay, so in my notes, I say, no amount of clearing will fix this issue if you don't address the causes of your spiritual vulnerabilities. Okay. All right, here's an exercise for you to practice, for you to do. Again, a little more homework. If you haven't watched it yet, go back and watch last month's YouTube live, 7 things that make a person vulnerable to spiritual warfare. 7 things that make a person vulnerable to spiritual warfare. And you can find that by going to the channel and click on live or lives in the menu, and you'll see all the past YouTube lives. Any questions so far? I know this is very nuts and bolts. Like, this class is not like about, ooh, what to do if your house is haunted. Like, that's kind of an exciting topic. We have some topics that are like kind of cool and weird. This is very nuts and bolts, and this is for people who are really struggling with psychic attack, spiritual warfare issues, and you really want to know why what you're doing isn't working and what to do instead. Okay? So, it's valuable. Number 4, pillar. This is the 4th pillar of psychic protection. And this is also, like all of these pillars, it's included in the new program, the Psychic Protection Solution. And also, all of this is included in the Academy, but the Academy is like much more expansive in what we cover. But the Psychic Protection Solution is much more like step by step. Here are the pillars, and I take you through each one and give you the resources. Here's the process to do this. Here's the handout that takes you through how to do this, etc. So if you need that, then that's for you. Okay, number 4 pillar is physical tools for psychic protection. Let me just give you a sneak peek of number 5 so you can get where we're going to. Number 5 is spiritual tools for psychic protection. So let's talk about physical tools. Physical tools would be things like burning frankincense or sage or other herbs, resins, using other tools, using ritual tools, using salt, using sacred blessed water, using holy water. Like those are examples of physical things that you are doing or using that help you with your psychic attack issues. The benefit of learning physical tools is that you don't have to be a master occultist. If you are, that's great, but you don't have to be a master occultist. And a lot of times when people first start working with me, honestly, they're overwhelmed and they're exhausted because they've been dealing with these issues for too long. They've tried different healers that have done clearings and the issue kept coming back. Like I've just seen that a million times. And they're overwhelmed and they're exhausted and they just don't, let's just be real. If you're overwhelmed and exhausted and afraid, you don't have the mental capacity to learn complex occult practices. Like maybe later you could learn that, but right then you just don't have that capacity. You need like simple tools that don't require special skills. Okay. And that's the cool thing about physical tools for psychic protection. They don't require special knowledge, and you can use them even when you're overwhelmed, even when your brain is melted from like all of the stress that you've been under from the spiritual warfare. You can just use the tools and the tools work. So you learn several tools in the psychic protection solution. But let me ask you, because you might already have some of your favorite tools. So let's brainstorm right now. What's one of your favorite physical tools? What's one of your favorite physical tools? So examples: smoke cleanses, salt, candle work, crystals, stones, essential oils, protective amulets, and the list goes on and on. So go ahead and share, and then I'm going to read some of your comments before we go on. Okay. So go ahead and share. And when you share, you're helping the rest of the group, because that might give some other people ideas. Like maybe there's somebody who's wanting to work on this framework on their own, totally on their own. And if you share some of your favorite methods, that's going to help them add that to their list so they'll have something to work with. Lyle says, I was having a surge of entities on the astral last month. They have subsided. Oh, thank goodness. I'm so glad. I find animals are acting up a little around me, which is unusual. Yeah, That's an indication of something weird going on. My dream last night had crazy horses bucking around me. Yep, those are all indications that things are still a little bit out of whack. Ocean Soul says, by the way, I might do that new program, Maya. I was thinking about you, Jamiel. I was like, maybe he might want to do this because the people in the academy have been previewing it and they love it. They love it. I mean, I think you'll really like it. He says, I'm still in a very rough patch, but have given it some thought to find an alternative to SEA in the meantime. Yeah, that could work. I think you would get a lot from that. Really, it's just very different from the Academy Library. Like the Academy Library is huge and comprehensive and awesome. And in that way, it can help people even go from beginner to advanced. But the psychic protection solution, the feedback that I've been getting is the students really love how it's very step by step. And I think you'll like that. That's my point of view. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to leave out that other comment because it's not really about our content here. But thank you. Thanks for the update. The Sin City Mama says salt for sure. Yes. And there are different ways to use salt. And I go over that step by step in the program. But you could also ask ChatGPT. Again, I'm really open to you either working independently or within that program. Use this however you want. So when we just say salt, you're like, how do you do that? There's a lot of ways. Okay. Grace Walker says incense, candles, and salt. Sin City Mama says copal or frankincense. Ocean Soul says oracle cards. Salt is also is good too for some things. Sin City Mama says, is a cat a physical tool? Not exactly. Well, our animals are really good for setting sacred space and for helping ground us and transmute energies. So I wouldn't be like using them to transmute a lot of dark energies because sometimes then the animal can get sick. But I know exactly what you're saying. Like my animals were curled up to me the other night when I was shifting some stuff, and that's what they're great for. Grace Walker says, interesting, we're going into the year of the flaming horse in the Chinese calendar. Yeah. Ocean Soul says, I like hearing this. Carol Lambert says, a device that is a copper tensor technology. Yes, I'm familiar with that. And Ocean Soul says, cats are healers though. So I would say yes. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's take a quick second. Oh, Sin City Mama says, it's not my cat. It just seems to show up whenever I'm sad or worried, and it insists on calm petting. I have that happen too, where animals will show up in the yard at the perfect right time. I love that. So number 4 was physical tools for psychic protection. A tip is you probably already know of one or more physical tools, and we've just brainstormed a few of the basic ones. So think about what is your favorite tip, and the exercise that you're going to do for homework is I want you to implement, if you're not already, I want you to implement at least one physical tool. And this is even if you're not under psychic attack. Energy hygiene, like brushing your teeth, showering, like taking care of your physical hygiene is important on a regular basis. And taking care of your spiritual hygiene is important too. So pick a physical tool and you can utilize it. If you're not under attack and you just want something for hygiene, you can use it once a week or once a month or, whenever certain period of time. If you are under attack, you probably need to use whatever that tool is more regularly. One thing that you need to know about physical tools and spiritual tools as well is that when you're under attack, when you're dealing with negative spiritual issues, if it's anything more than a mild issue, you're going to need to use that tool more than once. You're going to have to use it regularly and along with other tools to have a cumulative effect that builds over time. And I am saying this, remember, as someone who has worked with countless people over the past decade, specifically in the area of spiritual warfare. I know for a fact that a one-time frankincense smoke cleanse is really not going to clear out like a demonic entity infestation or a major psychic attack, etc. It's just not going to do it. You're going to have to use that tool, whatever your tool is, regularly, and you're going to have to use more than one tool. You're going to have to use you're going to have to stack your tools, and then the more tools that you use on a steady basis, the more headway you will get. And it has a cumulative effect. Number 5, pillar of spiritual empowerment. Number 5 tool of psychic protection is spiritual tools. So we already know what physical tools are. These tools that are on the 3D, physical things that you can use. Spiritual tools are non-physical practices that you can do. So for example, learning a daily spiritual protocol for clearing, protection and authority, prayers, declarations, revoking access of negative interference, revoking access of the dark healer that you worked with in the past, revoking access of the dark forces that you maybe gave them access in a past life, or someone else gave permission, and so you're going to revoke access. Revoking negative vows and negative contracts, calling in divine protection and spiritual allies, setting spiritual boundaries. Those are all examples of spiritual tools. And also we can get into rituals, which is a series of step-by-step spiritual tools, often paired with physical tools. So a ritual doesn't have to be elaborate, but a ritual would be using one or more physical tools along with some prayers or invocations or revocations, etc. And we have plenty of that in the new program, like literally step by step for you. And again, remember what I said, that a lot of the people that come to me are really overwhelmed, and they're not really in the brain space or the emotional space or the nervous system capacity to do a 50-step elaborate occult practice. Okay, like you can do that later, or if you already know how to do that, you could do it now. But the rituals and the way that I have you use the tools together, it's very powerful but simple. Okay, so anybody of any ability level or any capacity can do it. All right, so let's read some comments. Ocean Soul says, I'm glad I joined this class tonight. One big question that I would like to ask about is, can salt help with severe stage 3 psychic attack for sleep? I'm coping with stage 3 attacks at night. Yes, it can, but do remember that just one tool alone is unlikely to clear out an entire severe attack, but it's definitely a tool that I would recommend if you're getting attacked at night. And I do talk about that in my second book, the psychic attack Sourcebook. There's some information, I think. Gosh, now I have 4 books. I have to remember what everything is in. Either Darkness Disguised as Light. I think there's a segment in Darkness Disguised as Light. That's my first book about protection at night. There's also information about salt in the Psychic Attack Sourcebook, and there's even more comprehensive information about using salt and protection at night in the new program. But just a quick recap, like you can use any kind of salt, and you can literally, like, if you're being attacked at night while you're sleeping, you just put it under your, you sprinkle salt under your fitted sheet. It might feel a little bit weird, but it does help. There are a lot of other methods too, but I don't have time to go into all of the salt info, but hopefully that helps give you a start. Ocean Soul says, and it seems like it is not helping as much. I got an intuition only like 20 or 30% with the degree of severity right now. Yeah, so if, so again, salt would be one tool. I have a feeling that frankincense is going to help a lot based on the kind of feeling that I'm getting about the type of energy that you're dealing with. So again, you'll want to stack your methods. And even if one, like you said, salt is maybe more of a minor, helping in a more minor way, I wouldn't get rid of that. I would still keep using it because it all has a cumulative effect of protection so that you personally don't have to be in mega hypervigilant mode 24/7. Like, how can you possibly be getting decent sleep if you're having to protect yourself while you're sleeping? So stack your tools. Yeah, Ocean Soul says demons, and I think someone astral traveling too. Yeah. So I don't do personal readings in the YouTube lives, but I am going to say, yeah, that seems right. Yeah. The Sin City Mama says, in my experience, it has helped. I just sprinkled it around my bed and even the edges of the blankets. Yep. Ocean Soul says, I have to review the book Maya, which I still have. I might need to add extra stuff like herbs for it. Yeah, I think since you're dealing with demons, frankincense is a really go-to tool if you can tolerate it. Some people with health issues can't do frankincense. But there's some more intermediate ways of using frankincense that I cover in the new program in case you're interested. But burning frankincense, that's a great way to, it's so simple. Like I said, with physical tools are just so great because they're simple. So something like frankincense with your particular issue, it might not on its own permanently get rid of the issue, but it's going to give you some relief without having to do anything elaborate. And I would be doing it every day, a minimum of every 3 days, with the severity of demonic energy that I'm sensing from your situation. And listen up as I go into some of the other pillars because those apply to you. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Ocean Soul, you're welcome. All right, let me take a break for a second. Get a drink. Okay. All right, so we were talking about spiritual tools, pillar number 5. A tip for you with that tool. If you are experiencing negative interference, so any type of negative interference, whether it's empath sensitivity or outright psychic attack, you must have a daily protocol. You can't just do this like every once in a while thing. If you're having issues, you need to have a daily practice. Like, you wouldn't just like brush your teeth once and never go to the dentist and then expect that you're going to have all your teeth when you're old, right? Like, you have to have a regular practice in order for things to go well. So remember that. Some people have expressed to me over the years, like, oh, I'm so tired. Do I have to do this forever? And it's like, no, you don't have to do the entire stack of like 15 things forever. The 15, whatever, the whole stack of things that you've had to do while you're under major attack. But you do need to always, for your whole life, you need to have some type of daily protocol, daily practice, daily way of managing your energy. And that is going to keep you from having a major attack ramp up in the future, because you're going to catch it sooner. So that's my tip about spiritual tools. And an exercise for you is I would like to invite you to choose one spiritual practice to do daily. And remember, I listed off a few that hopefully one of these makes sense to you. So learning some type of daily spiritual protocol for clearing, protection, authority. I teach that really step by step in the new program, but you might have your own way of doing it. Prayers, declarations, revocations of access or negative vows, negative contracts, calling in divine protection, divine allies, setting spiritual boundaries. Choose at least one spiritual practice and do it daily. You have to do that. I mean, if you want to thrive and be empowered, then that's a must. Okay, so number 6. First, let's read a comment. The Sin City Mama says, yes, it does feel overwhelming. Yeah, when you're doing like so many steps to clear out a psychic attack, for example, it can feel really overwhelming at first. But thankfully, everybody who has a steady approach and doesn't give up, everybody gets through the attack or the spiritual warfare onto the other side, where they can lighten up their practice and have it be shorter and not so intense. The Sin City Mama says, until you realize that actually you don't have time to not do the daily clearing. Yeah, exactly. Number 6 pillar of psychic protection. You might not have thought of this one, but this is one that has really come to my awareness a lot in the last year. Number 6 pillar that you must incorporate in order to truly, fully, and permanently address a spiritual warfare issue is to heal the trauma of the spiritual warfare. So pardon me while I'm probably going to read straight off my notes because I don't want to get this wrong. So healing the trauma of spiritual warfare. Here's why it's so important. Spiritual attack creates trauma and loss of trust. Spiritual attack creates hypervigilance and fear responses. And that hypervigilance in your energy field and that fear in your energy field, it actually creates access points, entry points, where entities, dark magic, psychic attack, negative energy, it creates that hypervigilance in your energy field, that fear response, it actually creates entry points where more of that negative stuff can keep accessing you. So until you can address the trauma and the hypervigilance and the fear, the automatic fear responses, which by the way are only human and normal, it's normal to have a fear response to something that feels dangerous. But while you're still in that hypervigilance mode and that fear mode, it continues to make you vulnerable to that issue or a future issue having access to you. So you must address the trauma of spiritual warfare. And that includes rebuilding your inner authority and your sense of spiritual safety. When you rebuild your inner authority and spiritual safety, that equals more protection. So let's see if we can wrap our brains around this. When you first start, most people are going to be all about the physical tools. Like, I got to burn my frankincense and I got to make my energy clearing spray and I got to do all this stuff. And that's normal. It's normal to lean into those physical tools. And then you move along to some of the spiritual tools. And then eventually you realize that once you rebuild your inner authority to where you know in your very being that negative entities are not allowed in your space, and you can set clearer boundaries, and you can literally emanate an energy of safety coming from your energy field, you will no longer be as much of a match for those negative energies. And guess what? You won't have to work very hard at all on protection anymore. So in the beginning, there's a lot of effort of like doing all these physical and spiritual tools. But eventually, when you start to address the trauma and the fear responses and reclaim your inner authority, and it's easier said than done. Like, it does take a process, which I take you through in the program. Once you begin to do that, then you don't have to do so much efforting you don't have to be like working so hard to fend everything off. Yeah. So here's a tip related to healing the trauma of spiritual warfare. The tip is calm is a superpower. Fear is an access point. It's an entry point for negative spiritual interference. Fear is an access point for negative spiritual interference. But calm is a superpower. Calm that radiates from your inner being. It repels all of those negative interferences. So here's an exercise for you to practice. Okay, so there is an entire series of lessons in the new program, the Psychic Protection Solution, that's all about addressing the trauma of spiritual warfare. But if you want to work on your own on this, here are some avenues that you could explore that could help you with addressing the trauma of having gone through psychic attack. And if you're taking notes, write this down. Somatic exercises. There are a lot of resources online, and there are therapists who use somatic experiencing exercises to help restore safety in your being. There's something called EMDR therapy, which helps with trauma, and you would do that with a therapist. There's also something that I'm so thrilled is more popular now, so there are many more resources. It's called nervous system regulation, and you can Google it or put it into ChatGPT and see what resources you can find for that. And that's going to help you in this category of healing the trauma of spiritual warfare. And last but not least, exercise or tip for you is literally just grounding. Connecting with nature is going to help you to heal that trauma and discharge some of that fear energy. So before we go on to number 7, let's read comments. Ocean Soul says, that makes sense. Fear, anger, etc. gives the beings and dark magic power. I am learning to return to the present as a way to take my power back from the person sending their stuff. Exactly. And dark force entities. Ocean Soul also says, it is like energy cord cutting. Releasing the fears to the person or entity takes power away from the attacks. Exactly. Okay, let's take a little break for a second. Somebody earlier, I think like a troll or something, was saying, is that person a man or a guy or a girl? And would a guy wear flower glasses? I don't know. Maybe, actually, maybe a guy would wear flower glasses, but I am female, but I don't wear makeup because I'm all natural. All natural. Maybe that's what was confusing. The natural face. Yes, the Sin City Mama says, whole page of notes just for number 6. Awesome. Cool. I can't emphasize enough how important that is, healing the trauma of spiritual warfare. And after working with so many people over the years and working through my own stuff, because I have a history, I got into this because I had a history of spiritual warfare that I was addressing. And then it became obvious in my own journey that, oh yeah, working with the trauma, it literally makes it so, like, I had an experience last month where there was something that was trying to get in, and because I was so regulated and I didn't go into fear, it wasn't able to get in. I also have a spiritual protocol. I have 5 layers of protection that I teach my students. Like, I have all of that set up in my energy field because with the work that I do, I need to have impeccable energy. With, being safe to show up with all my students, I need to have impeccable energy. But it was really interesting to see that this entity was not happy with me for helping a client, and it was trying to get in. And because I was so regulated and I did not go into fear and I did not accept its agenda that it wanted to put onto me, it was not able to gain access. And I was like, wow, I'm learning new things every day. I mean, it seems obvious, right? But I saw it in real time. And this was a very powerful entity. I mean, I would assume that that would be the case with like entities in general, but this was one of the nasty nasties. Okay. All right. So let's go on to number 7. We have 10. So I'm going to try to talk a little faster here. Number 7 pillar of psychic protection is energy awareness and managing your energy. So it is important to understand your energy system. And this is going to sound like basic 101 for some of you, I know, but not everyone knows about this. You need to not only understand about your aura and your chakras and your subtle bodies, but you also need to learn how to tune into your energy and sense, is there something that doesn't belong? What is it? And to be able to clear things on your own. And so this is all about energy awareness and managing your energy. So let me read off my notes because I think I forgot a couple of things. Learning what your energy feels like. Learning how to scan your energy when something isn't yours. Cord awareness. So feeling when there's a negative energy cord, when there's something that doesn't belong to you that's in your energy field, someone else's energy or an entity or some foreign body. How to not leak your energy. Basic energy hygiene, etc. So here's a tip, and this is a repeat of what I said earlier. Don't be dependent on others to manage your energy. And again, back to the brushing your teeth example. Let's say you never brush your teeth and you only have your teeth cleaned when you go to the dentist, like every 6 months or once a year or something, because you don't want to take care of your own teeth. That's too much trouble. So, or maybe like once a month, let's say, because people might go to a healer once a month, right? So you're going to like go have them work on your teeth once a month, but your teeth are going to be so gross. But imagine what happens to your energy field also if you're never discharging non-beneficial energy, if you're never working with your own energy. Like, you really should be checking your own energy field daily and clearing out anything that doesn't belong. Because let's be real, even just walking through the grocery store, you can just pick up weird, even like emotions or other weird energies from the other shoppers. And then if you've gone into some other more difficult environment, then you may have picked up something even darker. The quicker that you clear something out, the less chance it has to hook in So this is why it's so important for you to be aware of your energy and to manage your energy daily. So an exercise, and let's do this right now. We're going to do it the quickest exercise in the world. So just, if you're not driving, close your eyes. And we're going to set the intention to have a really focused intention here without a full meditation. I want you to close your eyes. Take a breath. Eyes are still closed. Just get a sense, kind of feel out into your whole energy field above your head, around your body. Is there anything out of balance? And just, since we're doing a quickie version of this, what's the one thing that feels out of balance and where is it? And you can go ahead and share it in the chat. Okay. Before we go on to the next one, Ocean Soul says, I'm so glad to hear it still brings healing and help. I feel happy that it is making a difference in people's lives. Yes, we were having a little conversation about some music that Ocean Soul created for us in the Academy. Okay, we have 3 more on this marathon. This is a big list. We're going through a lot today. Number 8, pillar of psychic protection. This is something that you need to learn about and work on so that your psychic protection efforts will stick, and so that whatever issue that you're working on to clear, it will be cleared permanently, not temporarily. Number 8 pillar is past life issues contributing to current attacks. So this could be like a psychic attack or a curse in a past life, spiritual persecution that you experienced in a past life, trauma stored in your soul, negative spiritual contracts, etc. I've also seen situations where an entity has harassed a person in their past life or past lives, and then it follows that entity, that dark entity follows that person from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime. And sometimes there's some kind of energy cord, or there's even a contract or there's some type of permission that needs to be revoked. All right, so all those past life issues need to be addressed. And we don't usually work on that first. We work on the other pillars first. But then we want to get down to like the deeper roots to make sure that all of the origination points where the attack originally originated from, we want to make sure that all of that is addressed so that those entry points aren't still there. Maybe the entry point is coming through a past life. Sin City Mama says, I can feel stuff, but I don't know how to identify it with confidence yet. That's a really good point. So here's the thing. No matter where you're at in your ability levels to tune in intuitively in your energy field, if at least you can get a sense that there's something that's non-beneficial, like that seems like it doesn't belong, then you can, with your will and your authority, you can remove it. Okay? So you don't have to know if it's an entity or a whatever. You just, at the very least, need to know that doesn't need to be in my energy field. Shaw Woman says, hi, Maya from the Mojave Desert. Sin City Mama says, do you have to revoke multi-life entities repeatedly, or does it work right with one clearing? It really depends. I've worked with people where they or we, if we were doing the work together, where it was cleared in one clearing, and sometimes it would take a few. Just really depends on all the circumstances and how strong the attachment is. But you're right. It doesn't have to take multiple efforts, right? Okay. Let's go on to, let's see, the tip for past life issues. The tip regarding past lives is that the past life can be the origin point or the access point. When you clear it, it can make the rest of your psychic protection work much easier. So again, a lot of people are going to start off working with the physical tools and the spiritual tools, but then when you clear that origination point, your efforts will be a lot easier. So here's an exercise. Now, of course, because we have so much that we're covering, we don't have time to do a past life regression right here. But if you suspect that there is a soul pattern, like you feel like this, even if you can't read your past lives, but you just suspect that there is some kind of pattern that's been repeating in your soul, can you write a new contract? You can write out, this is what you want it to be instead. So if you're a really self-directed person, you can figure out how to write a new soul contract. But I do teach you how I take you through a process with guided audios and with worksheets, with handouts for clearing past lives, and also revoking negative soul contracts and rewriting those contracts in the new program, the Psychic Protection Solution. So if you need some guidance, that would be there for you. Number 9 is the number 9 pillar for psychic protection is ancestral issues. So this is very similar to past life. The past life issues that we just talked about can be an entry point. Let's say the issue began in a past life and it didn't begin in this lifetime. Same thing with ancestral issues. Number 9, maybe the issue didn't start with you. It actually started with one of your ancestors. It could have started just simply one generation back or multiple generations back. And there are many factors to this that I go over in the new program. But there's also information in, there's a video on my YouTube channel, and it's about ancestral spiritual issues. And there's also a whole chapter in the Psychicattack Sourcebook that you can get on Amazon. So these ancestral issues can be inherited soul contracts, patterns, negative beliefs that are carried in your family line, addictions, repeated traumas that are carried in your family line, occult practices. If someone in your ancestry was practicing not just occult, but dark occult practices, that can have an effect on all of the ancestors that follow. Okay. Psychic sensitivity that has been inherited. So you might be psychically sensitive, and you might not be the only one who is. You might have a grandmother and great-great-grandmother and so on that were psychically sensitive. Perhaps a psychic attack or curse that began with one of your ancestors, that was curse was placed upon them. Maybe the person who did the curse cursed the whole family line. That's actually very common. So as you can see with that really fast list that I went through, there are a lot of factors with the ancestral issue. And so that's important to look at and evaluate, use your gut instincts or even what you consciously know about your family, especially thinking about any patterns that you notice that seem to be negative patterns that seem to be prevalent in your family. There might be an ancestral issue underneath that. So here's your tip. You can become the cycle breaker. When you clear issues, it creates a ripple effect backward and forward. So backward to the older people, older family members, and even backward to the people who are on the other side in the afterlife. They end up receiving healing too if they wish, because everyone has free will. And then it also goes forward into your family line. So if you do have children, then it can go forward to them as well. So whatever work that you do has a ripple effect both directions. And your homework, the exercise for you would be to journal about any spiritual issues that you feel might be connected with ancestry. And your tip, your clue is that any spiritual issues that you are having that other family members seem to have as well. Or even maybe you don't know those family members, but you've just heard people talk about, oh, so and so, when they were alive, they had this issue. So journal about that and see what you come up with. And that's going to help give you some clues on what needs to be cleared. And so you can work on that on your own. And then also, of course, in the Psychic Protection Solution, there's a worksheet where I take you through questions to evaluate your ancestry to help you get clarity on some issues that might be present in your genetic line. And then also along with spiritual clearings, audio clearings that you can listen to clear your ancestry. And now we're ready for number 10. Dun, da, da. The Sin City Mama says, if I don't know whether it's an entity or a person sending the energy, then how would I know what color candle to get? Oh, that's great. So there is a process that I teach in the Academy and in the Psychic Protection Solution and in my book, the Psychic Attack Sourcebook. There's a candle process that I teach that's very simple and straightforward. And there are different color candles that I recommend for different things. But in short, to answer your question, if you're not sure if an entity is involved or not, then go ahead and err on the side of caution and go ahead and use a white and black candle. If you know for sure that there's no entities and it's just straight out psychic attack, black magic, negative vibes, negative juju that somebody's sending you, you can use a red and black candle. And so if you're not sure, I would go ahead and use white and black. And my intuitive hit for you is that you need white and black. And if you're interested, that whole process, there's, like I said, there's different versions of that in those 3 resources that I just named off. The Psychic Attack, trying to talk so fast, the Psychic Attack Sourcebook, and then also my 2 programs. Number 10, the 10th pillar of reclaiming your, sorry. Okay, I got too many words. The 10th pillar of psychic protection. The final pillar is reclaiming your power and sovereignty. Now, we sort of touched on this when we talked about healing the trauma of psychic attack. But now we're really going straight forward into reclaiming your power and your sovereignty or your authority over yourself. So, again, I'm going to look at my notes because there's a lot here. This is what I mean. How you were taught to give your power away. Most of us were taught to give our power away to authority figures. Or there's this unconscious belief taught that some spiritual power, some spiritual being has more power than you, which is false. Or you might be looking to gurus or spiritual authorities for your power because you were taught growing up in a religion that that's what you're supposed to do. So you need to evaluate how, when you were growing up, were you taught in your culture, in your family, to give your power away, to give your authority away to those who you believed were in authority? How in your life have you referred to others for answers, or you assume that others are more powerful? How have you looked to authority figures for the answers? And many times the systems, the religious systems, are abusive. And so you've learned these things within abusive systems, within religious systems, or with gurus, or codependent or toxic spiritual teachers. So when you learn to reclaim your spiritual power and your sovereignty, you learn to trust your intuition again. Because when you were young, you had natural intuition. You could probably, when you were younger than your memories can recall probably, you could probably sense energies. You probably remembered your past lives. You could read minds. You knew what people were feeling. You could sense people's energies, who could be trusted, who couldn't be. But you were trained through your culture to not believe in that and to look to others for authority. And so as you reclaim your power and your authority, you will come to a point where you will know within your very being that no entity or energy has power over you. But it takes a little bit of reflection and working through some of your programming to get to that point. And I do take you through exercises to do that in the psychic protection solution. And there are also really powerful clearings for calling your power back, revoking all of the access that you've accidentally given to negative forces, and calling your power back to you. All within the psychic protection solution. But hopefully everything that I just went over will give you a springboard that you could even work on these things like journaling on your own, so you can do that evaluation and figure out, how are you not fully in your authority? Because this is something, again, with working with so many people over the last decade, specifically in the field of psychic protection, I would see that people who were getting stuck, like they were getting some results, but they weren't getting all the way there. It was because there was some way that they had learned to not be in their full power. And so I teach you how to get to that point again, so that eventually, here's what's cool, eventually you will rarely, if ever, need frankincense or smoke cleanses or all the things. You might need it every once in a while, but like your authority of what you will allow or not allow in your energy field, your authority will be enough. And that's what's so cool. But most people can't get to that point all of a sudden on step one. It takes a little while. So this is why we have these 10 pillars, and we go through all these steps, and finally you get to the point of inner authority, where entities know not to F with you. So let's read a couple of comments. Ocean Soul says, I believe in the idea of earth angels, humans that have angelic souls. I am wondering if people who have that label, raised in very dark homes like narcissistic or abusive, have that issue because of curses. It can be because of curses, but I would say, so it could be an ancestral curse or something like that. But I would say more frequently with a person like that, it would be what I call dark forces targeting by the dark forces. So dark forces is a term for like the whole, all of it, not just demonic forces, but all the negative forces. They don't want pure, bright souls to thrive on this planet. in this reality. And so there are efforts that are made to diminish those kinds of souls, whether you want to call it an earth angel or other types of bright souls, because there are many types. There is often some type of dark forces targeting where that person is pinpointed as, okay, we want to pull that person down. We're going to put them in a family that has mega abuse, or we're going to put them into a body that has major health suffering, or we're going to put them in so they're born into some whatever the major adverse circumstances might be. Now, let's be honest, there are people who are put in adverse circumstances because they did on some level choose it for some type of experience. But I don't agree with the popular spiritual teaching that says that that is always the case. I believe that what I see is that a lot of the time it is not chosen. Those adverse circumstances are not willingly, knowingly chosen. The soul is often tricked or forced into those adverse circumstances in order to keep them down. And I know probably so many of us can relate to that. I know I can. Like in the thick of clearing, oh man, I was put into a system, me personally, that has a shit ton of stuff to clear in the ancestral line and suffering and all. Like I know so many of you can relate to that. It is a thing. Ocean Soul says, and or because they did something bad in a past life. Yeah, that's a very popular idea in the New Age world, that if you have some adverse circumstances, it means that you did something bad. I think, so that idea pisses me off. I think it's lazy. I think it's victim blamey. I think it's usually wrong. Yes, there are situations where someone is living out the negative, they're resolving negative karma from bad things that they did. But I think most of the time it has to do with negative spiritual targeting. Yeah, that's my point of view. Yeah, hopefully I answered your question, Ocean Soul. Sin City Mama says, I think sometimes souls enter those families because they want to use their lives to clear those curses. Yes, sometimes a higher vibration soul also, and I might be saying what you're saying, but in a different way. Sometimes souls will come into a family in order to assist and to help bring healing and clearing to that family line. That is true also. So in that sense, that would be chosen. It's not dark forces interference. Yep. Okay, so let's finish up with number 10, reclaiming your power and sovereignty. Here's your tip. Oh, actually, I have a few more things to say from my notes. So when you reclaim your power and your sovereignty, you become energetically unmessable with. I made up a new word. Like, you can't be messed with. And that is something I think we should all aspire to. I've come a long way with that personally, but I still would like to go even further with that, where I'm even so much more in my power that like literally nothing can touch me. I'm not at that point yet, but I'm moving in that direction. So I think that is what we should all aspire to. Here's your tip. So to repeat again, true power comes from your inner authority. It does not come from me doing clearings for you or from another healer doing clearings for you. True power comes from your own authority. Now, sometimes you might have a healer assist you when you're really stuck and you need help getting your head above water. But then you need to be not depending on that healer for everything, right? So they are just there to help with part of the process with something that's maybe more advanced than you know how to do. But then you need to work on your own authority. That is where your true power comes from. And your exercise, your homework is to journal about this, about everything that we talked about how you were taught to give your power away, about how like there might be ways that you are too passive. And I had to look at this myself about 5 and 6 years ago. I was like having this epiphany about how I was too passive. I was allowing things to happen energetically or interpersonally instead of taking action from my own authority. So are there ways that you've been too passive? Are there ways that you have assumed, even on a subconscious level, that something or someone else is more powerful than you? Like deep down, do you believe that you're not that powerful? That's something for you to work on and journal about. And there, of course, you can journal about that on your own. And there are also exercises to take you through this in the psychic protection solution. Okay. So once again, I'll just recap and say that you can watch this replay again when it comes up a little bit after we're done with the live. You can watch the replay again and take notes, work on your own on all of these pillars, and or you can consider joining the Psychic Protection Solution, where I take you through these pillars step by step. So either way, I hope that you have found this content helpful. And this content today was, again, specifically for the people who've been throwing spaghetti against the wall, like trying different things here and there, but you're just not really sure what works. Because let's face it, a lot of the resources out there give like little quick fix tools or tips, but those little tips and tools are not really going to clear a multi-layered, long-standing spiritual warfare issue that you've had for like decades or a long time, or maybe even lifetimes, or throughout your family line. Like one little ritual that you find online, that's not going to clear the whole thing. You need to have a protocol that takes you through all of the steps, whether you figure that protocol out on your own or you work through my protocol. Just the most important point that I want to drive home is that when you're dealing with a complex or long-standing spiritual issue, one spiritual ritual or one clearing is not, it's not going to fix it permanently. It's not going to fix all of it. So you have to have a multi-layered approach and work on it for several months. And then you're going to be free of it forever. Can you imagine that? Like if you've been dealing with spiritual issues for a long time, just to think like, wow, it could actually be resolved like forever, permanently. Yes, it can be. So whatever path that you choose to follow, I hope that you found this content helpful. Do you have any final questions? Because I'm going to head off for the evening in just a moment. So if you want to get announcements about the new program, you can find it on my website. So I actually haven't even announced it on my website yet, but if you want, it'll be up on the website later. But if you want to get announcements, go to my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com, and put your email in to get the email newsletter, and you'll get the announcements about when it's coming out, and then you'll be emailed the link that has all the information about the program so that you can see exactly what's included, exactly what the cost is for the founding members who join at the very beginning, and what all the benefits are, and some really awesome reviews from people who've already been going through the program. So that's there for you if you need it. It's there for you, and it will. That program is going to be evergreen. So the first people who join get some special things, but then after that, if you're watching this class much later, that program will still be open, and you'll find it on my website. Okay. Grace Walker says, thank you very much. This has been very helpful. Ocean Soul says, thank you so much, Maya. I'm glad I stopped by tonight. It was good to see you and some fellow classmates. Wonderful. Grace Walker says, the Sourcebook was very helpful as well. Your second book. Yes, good. Yeah, so let's say if there's somebody who is like, well, I don't really, I just found Maya's channel. I don't really know yet if I really want to sign up for something. Like, I totally get that. So if you wanted something to start off with, you could, if you're under psychic attack or dealing with spiritual warfare or negative spiritual targeting of any kind, you could start with the Psychic Attack Sourcebook, which you can find on Amazon, and there's an audio version of it also. You could start with that. It doesn't give you nearly as many steps of how to resolve your issue, but it will get you started. So if you want something to start with, or you're like eager to get started, and you want to read that book before the program opens, that would be great homework to do ahead of time so you can get an A++. Anyway, thank you for reminding me about the book, because I think that's a helpful resource for everybody. Shaw Women says, thank you, Maya. I will watch it in full and take good notes. Much love, Debbie. Oh, good to see you, Debbie. Yes, lots of love to all of you. Thank you so much. And remember that we have this YouTube Live every month on the first Tuesday at this time. So I will see you next month. I haven't chosen the topic yet, but as always, I will post it in the on the YouTube channel. And also a little shout out to those of you who've been making comments and posting questions and just being active on the videos, like even the older videos and the newer videos, like all the videos. It does help the channel when you interact, because if you haven't noticed, my channel is pretty shadow banned because like YouTube doesn't really like a channel that talks about psychic attack and spiritual warfare. So you can really help out a lot by subscribing. Hey, here's my cat, everybody. My little cat boy. Hi. Okay. He doesn't want to be featured. So you can help the channel out a lot by subscribing, liking, like every video that you watch, click the like button, make a comment, even if it takes just a second, even if it's like hi or whatever. Like, it does help boost the channel, which helps. It's like, it doesn't matter to me personally. It doesn't help. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but it helps other people because it boosts the channel. So people who are struggling with these issues will be more likely to find the channel. So help those other people by interacting on the channel. And thank you to everybody who's been doing that. Thanks, everybody. And I will see you next month. Lots of love.